long way back. Dr. Kecia M. Kelly, who's Vice President and Chief Nursing and Chief Operating Officer for Common Spirit Health. Can you tell me, because all of us across the country may not
hmm
be very familiar with Common Spirit Health, but how many hospitals are we talking here?
I keep losing count. It's somewhere between 140 and 107. There's been
Wow.
some that have merged. I think we sold off some hospitals, so it's somewhere between 140 and 147. We're the largest not-for-profit healthcare organization in the country.
Wow. That is amazing. And Keisha, how do you keep up with all those hospitals?
Well, I have seven. So, and I know that so I have well, what's interesting with me is that I have my hospital, which I'm the COO and CNO of, as well as
Okay.
vice president, but I also have six other hospitals, which is a total of seven, that I'm the division chief nursing officer for. And I don't know how I do it. All I can tell you is I just, you just kind of deal with one thing at a time. And yeah, it's a challenge. It's doable, but it's all about managing the people.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that can be a big, big deal. Now, you didn't just start doing this when we were roommates in college, y'all. I gotta tell you, you started your nursing journey then in school, right?
Yes. Yes. Golly, that was in 1989. Oh gosh, we're like ancient.
I know, right?
So, oh, and nursing school was so hard. It was so hard, and
Yeah.
it was hard. And I mean, of course, I made it, and but there were some moments there where a couple of us just didn't know if we were going to graduate, just because some of the classes as we went along got tougher over time. But yeah, I
Yeah.
do remember.
Yeah. And I mentioned school because you have doctor in front of your name. And not to
Yes.
confuse folks, you're like Dr. Nurse. Tell us how that
That's pretty
works.
much. Well, it's so I have a doctor of nursing practice, and in nursing there are two terminal degrees. You have a PhD, and then you have a doctor of nursing practice. And PhDs are usually, for the most part, are in the academic setting. They're very research based. They generate research. They're usually faculty. They have a different focus, whereas the doctor of nursing practice is more of a practice. Doctorate. And it really is intended for people who want to stay in the operation setting, but have a terminal degree. And so a lot of what I do and my role it's really about translating the
Mhm.
evidence into practice. And
Okay.
that's the difference with both of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have done so much work to get all sorts of letters and credentials. And here you are leading during a time of crisis. Like you've been through crisis before, but anything like this?
Nothing like this.
Yeah.
No, nothing
Yeah.
like this. This has been quite the journey.
Well, before we get going too far, what do you say we have a culture soup moment?
Sure.
Awesome. Okay. So COVID-19 is a hashtag. It's a trending topic. Gosh, it's wearing us down. But at the same time, we started this back in March, at least going home. And now we're seeing a resurgence long before the fall wave that they said was going to come.
Yes.
And Keisha, you've been at this for a little bit. Even before we knew
hmm
that this was going to be something that was going to hit us, you got an assignment. What was it?
Well, it's interesting that everybody is says that it happened in March is when everything hit the fan. But we actually heard about the first case in Wuhan, China,
Yeah.
back in December. And
Wow.
so we were already on a hyper alert at that moment. And and most of healthcare was already we were already preparing.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really more of just daily updates and what's happening and who's getting it and where is it happening and screening criteria. So but then what happened is when the first community, we were trying to ban all these traveling, we just don't come
Mm-hmm.
from China, don't come from Europe, and then when it happened that somebody who was just out in the community, just out there minding their own business, got it. Then we realized it was in the community, and that's when
Yeah.
everything hit the fan, and we had to really get our arms wrapped around it and prepare for it.
That's Wild. And then someone said, Dr. Kelly, we need you to stand up a COVID, um, like part of the hospital, or was it a separate area? It was a
Well,
unit.
it was our unit, and so in San Francisco, the chief nurses and the chief nurses of all the hospitals in San Francisco, not even just my organization, we all were working together. My boss was working together with the hospital presidents. We happened to have had we had capacity,
Hmm.
and my boss happens to be the president of the San Francisco Hospital Council, so he kind of offered it up. He said, "Hey,
Okay.
we'll do it." And
Thanks, boss. No
and
pressure.
yeah, no pressure. He said, "Hey, we'll do it." And then it was so we just decided that we were going to build this unit, and the intent was to decompress other hospitals. If they started to
Hmm.
reach capacity,
Hmm.
we wanted them to send their patients to us,
Yeah.
and it was we did it very fast. And I mean, I'm a nurse, but man, I'm a
Yeah.
diehard operator, and that's my military background. It's all about execution.
Yes. Get it
Just tell me
done.
what you need. Yeah, just tell me what you need and get out of my way and
Hmm.
let me do it.
Hmm.
And that's what I love about my boss is he said, "This is what we need. This is when it needs to happen." He said, "Make it happen."
Yeah.
And we did.
Yeah. And you did it. And there was a lot of coverage of it. I saw that you were standing for a picture, cutting a ribbon, and all of that good stuff. But these
Yeah.
were happier times before all the patients came. Then it
Yeah,
got crazy.
we were all getting some here and there. And what was interesting about the pictures that you see of me in the unit was I was actually having a motivational conversation with the nurses and telling them that they were making history today.
Mm.
And this was groundbreaking that we were doing this, and it wasn't just about what we were doing for the hospital, but it was about what we were doing for the community.
Yeah.
And they were because there was a lot of fear and consternation
Sure.
and that we were seeing outside of there, but I was literally telling them, "You guys, you've got this. You are the experts,
Yeah.
and everybody in the country is going to be looking at you right now. Nobody's interested
Yeah.
in me. They're going to be interested in them." And then from that
Yes.
point on, they became stock photos and stock videos every time they wanted to talk about COVID in San Francisco.
Right. Well, listen, you know what? We're going to talk about leadership lessons. That's one right there.
Hmm.
Motivating folks to do their very best and
Yes,
giving them that context of what
exactly.
the mission really is about.
Hmm.
So, how do you keep people motivated when, I mean, it's one thing to be cutting a ribbon at a brand new unit and saying, whoa, we're going into battle. But once you're
Yes.
in the battle and it looks like, wow, when's the end of this? How do you keep people motivated?
Well, it's interesting that I've learned, and a lot of what I learned in the military is really a lot of principles I've brought into my role as an executive.
Hmm.
And first and foremost is it's do as I do and not as I say.
Hmm.
And so no one expected me to go in that unit and do patient care.
Yeah.
But what was most valuable at that time was my presence on the unit,
Hmm.
the presence. And so because we know that as this was evolving, it was like driving a car and fixing it at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So the staff were getting a lot of information. The information was changing every day.
Hmm.
Um, and once we had a communication plan, it would change before we could even roll it out.
Yeah.
So what we were doing was pushing out communication, and then myself and my leadership team, every day we were on the floors
Hmm.
because they needed to see our faces. We needed to dispel the rumors. We needed to just provide compassion and
Hmm.
support, and we're here there with you, because I find that as an executive, it's easy for us to sit in our offices and just kind of bark out what we want people to do
Of
from our
course.
offices. But I think that that was probably the leadership lesson that I learned in that was the value of being present.
Hmm.
Not there's visible, and then there's present, and then there's being approachable.
Yeah.
And the more, and what I had to do, which people don't know, was there was a little bit of criticism that, okay,
Hmm.
well, I'm not going into the rooms. And the
Mm.
reason why I wasn't was, first of all, we were not sure how much personal protective equipment we had.
Right.
And so for me to go in there and go into every single room, I was going to have to change,
You're
and I was
depriving
going to
from
have
somebody.
right, and then I'm
Right.
and I'm pulling away from the people who are actually doing the care.
Hmm.
But one day I came in, I was like, okay, I'm coming down here, and I went down to a unit, and I put on everything,
Hmm.
the personal equipment, and I had the nurses to make sure, because we check to make sure we have it on correctly.
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
am I good? I was like, because
Yeah.
I'm going in. And I
Yeah.
literally went into a room and spent about 10 minutes with the patient, just
Wow.
talking. And I came out and I said, okay, guys, I've done this. And I
Hmm.
said, but now you know that I am willing to go into these rooms. But what you
Hmm.
also need to understand is that I am not going to deprive the supplies that you need to do your work just to make a buck.
Right. Right.
So you need to tell your friends.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that was what we did.
They needed that perspective. That's
Hmm.
for sure. Presence, perspective, motivation. Now tell me, how are things in San Francisco now? Because here in Texas, we got a few
Hmm.
factors going on. And so
Well,
now here we are again. But how is San Francisco doing? I know
we're
California
actually
spikes,
doing
but
we're doing well. We're
mhm.
actually doing very well. And you know who London Breed is. And man, I just got to give her props.
Yeah.
And I think that what we've seen, I'm a little biased towards women,
Yeah.
but where the pandemic has been managed well, there is a
Yes.
woman
Yes.
up at the
New
forefront.
Zealand.
And in New Zealand, and let's take, and even though Chicago, Washington, D.C., and Atlanta they've gotten hit, but it's not because of it, it was because of the governors, not because of the
Yeah.
mayors.
And you
You know
know
what I
what?
mean? Right.
That's the deal in Dallas. We've got
Hmm.
a mayor and a judge over the county that are
Yes.
they really care about the people, but we got this
Yes.
governor that's making it very, very hard, very difficult.
Exactly. And then the good thing here is that you got Gavin Newsom and you got London Breed, who were on the same page. And really, what I don't know if people know this, but London Breed was out of the gate before Gavin was. So
Yeah.
when he put his orders in place, London had already shut us down.
Wow.
And so she did that very early on. And then when Gavin kind of did his whole thing,
Hmm.
he basically said, he wasn't going to intervene with what London had already done. So he
Yeah.
respected her leadership in San Francisco. So that being said, because of those early measures, because of the trust that Gavin has put in all his mayors across California, we're actually doing very well. And
Good.
we're being very slow and measured in how we open up.
Hmm.
And it was a little annoying at first. I was like, seriously, come on, we're good.
Yeah.
But when I watched, when you watch Florida and you watch Texas and you watch Arizona and Vegas and how they just kind of just plumb full open the doors
In
up
Florida.
in Florida, and then look what happened.
Yeah.
So fortunately, we just have been watching that and learning from that. Even though we have a phased approach in how we're opening, and we
Hmm.
have proposed timelines, but within those proposed timelines, because we've managed it so well, we've actually been able to push up our timelines on certain
Hmm.
things that have opening. So
Yeah.
I've been very pleased with the leadership here in California and particularly here in San Francisco.
That's awesome. Well, you mentioned at some point you posted something about, and it was pretty early on, how you
Hmm.
get your information. I know that as a consumer, that just, I'm watching network cable news, I'm listening to radio. Sometimes you can get good information, other times no, especially
Yeah,
if you're listening to the sound bites from some of our leaders. And
right.
you made a statement that you get your information from like three different sources to make sure that you're getting the most
Hmm.
updated thing. So you want to tell everybody what that is?
It was the Center for Disease Control, it was the
Yes.
California Department of Health, and the San Francisco Department of Health.
Yes.
That's where I get my information from. That's what drives my practice. That's what
Hmm.
drives how we do our work because there's no noise there. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's just too much noise, and everybody has their own interpretation. And, and all due respect to Dr. Fauci, I don't even really, I just, the media tends to pull bites from him
Yeah.
and then makes an interpretation of it. So
Right.
we've just decided to just go with the orders and we get daily updates from the state and from the city And that's what drives our work. We get our
Mm-hmm.
statistics about how many cases we have. We have our statistics about how many fatalities we're having, and that has really minimized my anxiety
Yeah.
around this. Yeah.
Yeah. What's one of your biggest concerns going into this next spike? I'll call it a spike because they were looking at a wave coming in the
Hmm.
fall with the change
Yes.
of weather and such. But here we are in the summertime where everybody said, oh, the heat is going to help things. It's going to
Hmm.
kill off, whatever that means. COVID 19, we
Yeah.
won't be suffering as much. And here we are post Memorial Day weekend, going
Hmm.
into July 4th weekend. And we've seen video of people on beaches and people at bars and
Yes.
gosh, in mega churches singing their hearts out.
Yes.
What's your take on everything?
I've been gravely disappointed in people in general.
Hmm.
I it's heartbreaking that that the wearing of masks has become such a political issue.
Yeah.
It's that we've had no flattening of the curve. It's actually an embarrassment
Yeah.
how our country looks across the world and how we've managed this. And I really worry about that.
Hmm.
I worry that, what I do know based on historical context, that the virus does have a peak and it does have a plateau, and it has a cycle that it goes through. But
Hmm.
the problem is that you have the cycle in this city, and then you have the cycle in this city, and you have the cycle, and it just keeps cycling through.
Yeah.
It's hitting the rural communities,
And people are
and
traveling. They're still on planes.
people are traveling and they're on planes, and yeah, and I worry that I don't understand why people are not taking this seriously. I don't buy into the conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
I can't buy into them because I'm seeing it every day, and people questioning the numbers, questioning the statistics. And for me, quite frankly, it's a lot, but it's what I'm seeing, and quite honestly, one life lost is too many.
Yeah.
One
Too
life
many.
lost is too many, and that's really the context by which I go. So I'm just really worried that we're not going to get on the other side of this, because unfortunately this has been politicized,
Yeah.
and it's been politicized. And I think about the governor in New York, Governor Cuomo. um, and he said one day, he said, without people there is no economy.
No, you can't run a business without the people.
You can't.
You have no customers without the
Right.
people.
But and I don't know if we're going to go down this road, but we've seen that it has painfully uncovered the healthcare disparities
Yeah.
in this country, and
Yeah.
we're seeing a disproportionately large amount of them happening in people of color,
Hmm.
and people want to throw out that it's because of their lifestyle choices, their pre-existing
Oh, come
conditions.
on.
And there is a component of that, but what it is they're our frontline workers. They're the ones that are having to, go to the grocery
Yes.
store and deal with our foolishness.
Yes.
They've been out on the front line because they have to support their families.
Right.
Um,
Well, and even
so,
more, some of these
mhm,
pre-existing conditions exist because of the systemic racism. It's
it
built into
exists
everything we
because
do. The
it does.
food poverty, not being able to get access to the right kinds of food in your neighborhood so that you can be healthy, not having access to, good health care, or people who are going to judge you when you go into a hospital and not give you the right. I mean, my heart is overjoyed to see somebody that looks like you know, that can help me. It's going to believe me. My doctor is Dr. Nubajiri. He's Japanese. And
Hmm.
I have no problem with Dr. Nubajiri. He listens. You know what I mean?
Yes,
And that's
exactly.
what we need. And gosh, it's like a domino. So you can't look at the latest domino and say, that's
Hmm.
the problem. That domino,
You
right?
really can't. And Shell, I mean, I have, this is a whole nother talk show, but
Hmm.
I really have taken a step back and am really studying our history a little more. Not, and I'm learning our history more about not what we were taught in school, but the way history really happened.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's really providing some painful clarity to me about why we're in this state right now.
Yeah.
Um, and the food deserts you talked about, we still have redlining of communities. Um, we're seeing all these healthcare providers, at least in my social network, all these nurses and nurse practitioners and people are getting outed for their racist views. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, so these are the people that are taking care of our patients.
It's
It's no
scary.
wonder that our people of color, number one, they don't want to come into the hospital
Right. They're
because there
scared.
is no trust. But then we already know that there's evidence out there that says that, let's talk about Black women.
Yeah.
People think that we have a higher threshold for pain,
Yeah.
so therefore we don't get the pain medication
Right.
that we need.
Okay,
So I
so
can
let's
just
go
go
back in
on.
history. We were they experimented on us.
Tuskegee.
Yeah.
But
Tuskegee.
this go back all the way back to the slavery
Yes.
days, how they.
What was the name of the woman? She has a name.
Oh,
Who the gynecologist tested and did all sorts of crazy things to her. Lucy. That was her name, Lucy.
yes, yes. I mean, and there's that
It's
image that's
painful.
circulating on the internet of that picture, and it just breaks my heart. And it's heartbreaking. But the reality, Shell, is that we haven't really evolved the way we feel like we have.
Yeah.
We really haven't, and it took a pandemic to shut off the sports and
Yeah.
shut off entertainment and all these things that provided a distraction from us being able to see what the true issues are. If you take all that away, it's like being naked in public, and you
Yeah.
just put it all out there on display.
Oh yeah.
And so now we know that it ain't gone anywhere. It just was, it hasn't gone anywhere. So what are we going to do? Um,
Exactly.
what are we going to do? So, yeah.
Yeah, couple episodes ago, it was called the episode was called The Three Beasts of the Apocalypse. And one is COVID-19. The other is
Hmm.
the racial unrest and of course the civil rights movement that is
Hmm.
blossoming out of it. And the third one is a catastrophic failure in leadership. And I believe that it's kind of this perfect storm where
Hmm.
people's eyes have been opened up, and Lord, I sure hope that the change that we're seeking will actually come, and we're seeing some movement. But had it not been for this pandemic
Hmm.
and the craziness out of DC, a lot of hearts and minds wouldn't have been ready to even open their eyes to see what's going on. And some of them still aren't.
Exactly. They're not, and I have I just finished up a book called White Fragility,
Yes.
and it's there's controversial opinions about whether or not you should read it or listen to it, but I just decided that I needed to understand,
Yeah.
some things. And one of the things, we talk about, my husband talks about being a Marine, it's called plausible deniability.
Mm-hmm.
And if you deny that something actually exists, then you don't have to deal with it.
Right.
And so when people say that I don't see color, then that means it's plausible deniability. If you don't see
Right.
color, then that means you don't have to deal with it, right?
Right.
If you don't believe there's racism, then you don't have to deal with
It's
it. And
erased.
so and so we have a pandemic of plausible deniability around
Yes.
racism
Yes.
happening. And it's infiltrating every aspect of our lives,
Mm-hmm.
every aspect. So anyway,
Let me
I
ask
don't
you
know more
this.
than that. Hmm.
When we were roommates at TCU and you first started your nursing career, did you ever imagine being where you are right now, let alone in the midst of a pandemic and leading a team that is fighting the biggest war that we've been up against in a very long time?
Well, not in nursing school, I didn't. But one of the things is that I'd always been an overachiever. I was
Hmm.
an overachiever in high
That's true.
school.
All my sorors were.
I was an overachiever at TCU, and but I will tell you that when I was in the Army and I was a young officer, I wanted to be a general, and that
Hmm.
was my plan. As I
Yeah.
was going to be the chief of the Army Nurse Corps, and I had
Wow.
at the age of 22, I had set that goal as my
Yeah.
aspiration. But what happened is that at the young age of, I think, 25 or 26, I actually was an aide to a general who was the chief of the Army Nurse Corps.
Oh, so you got to
And
see.
I was her aide when she took command of a hospital, and so I was her aide for a year, and I got the exposure to I interacted with generals for a year. That
Hmm.
was it, and colonels, and I looked and I was like, these people, they ain't nothing. They're not really what I had fantasized them to be. And I became very discouraged. I'm like, okay,
Uh-huh.
I'm not in the right field here. And then and that's how I left the army. Was I
Right.
just became very discouraged. I'm like, okay, if this is what it means to be a general, I don't think I want a part of this.
Mm.
And honestly, Shell, you may not know this, but when I left the army and I left nursing and went into sales, I had
No, I had
lost
no
all.
idea.
Yeah, I worked for Pfizer Pharmaceuticals for 8 years. I was that drug rep with them
You know
samples.
what? I just thought you were a corporate nurse.
Nope, nope, nope. 8 years, I
Wow.
left the bedside, let my license lapse, and was a pharmaceutical sales rep. And just really didn't think I was cut out to be a nurse or a leader or
Mm.
anything, because
Hmm.
I had been a captain in the army and had been a manager, and I was just so discouraged. I burned out and just left it.
Yeah.
And so I was working in sales and working for Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, so everything from arthritis to fungal infections. I sold those drugs. And then when Pfizer did a layoff back in 2006, they laid off 10,000 of us,
Wow.
and I was one of them. And I thought I could stay in sales,
Hmm.
but then I said, well, let me just go back into nursing, and I'm just going to take care of patients. I'm not going to do the whole leadership thing.
Hmm.
That was my intention. I really didn't think
Wow.
that I was cut out for it. Um, but then what happened is I got back at the bedside, and 2 weeks, I hadn't practiced in 8 years. I lost my license, had to re-certify for my license, and 2 weeks into orientation, off of orientation, my boss asked me to be the charge nurse. I'm like, I ain't practiced in 8 years, and you want me to run this shift? And it just took off from there. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
Is that so? I literally have only been back into nursing since 2008.
Wow.
Yeah,
And you've been on a
2008.
rocket ever since.
And it's been movement ever since, because I came back, and not even a year back into nursing, I realized healthcare had changed, and that's why I went back and got an MBA, because then I became a manager. And I was like, man, this is a business.
Yeah.
It changed into a business. And so I
Hmm.
got the MBA in healthcare management. And then when I got that, I was like, oh, well, I think I could be a chief nurse one day. And then I was told, well, if you don't have a doctorate, need not apply. Uh, and so that's how I ended up in the doctorate
Yeah.
program. And then I found out that doctorate it didn't really apply to a lot of people. It only applied to me.
Interesting. You know what? There is a stat that I continue to quote from the US Census back in 2016.
Hmm.
The one group that has more advanced degrees than any other group, Black women.
We do. We do.
We're living
And yeah.
witnesses.
We do, because you know what? The way that we've been told that we will advance is to keep going back to school. When they
Yep.
don't want to give us a job,
Nope.
oh, well, you need this. Go back and get this. So I
Yep.
was like, okay, let me just go ahead and get this doctorate. And then I'm double board certified. I'm certified as a nurse executive, but I'm also a fellow of the American College of Healthcare Executives. Those are the
Hmm.
highest board certifications you can get. So I had to make myself undeniably qualified. I was like, okay, so now I got all the degrees. You can't send
Yeah.
me back to school. You can't
That's
send
the
me
route
back
we
for a
have to take.
certificate. Right. And then what happens? And then you're just not a good fit.
Yeah. Hard to work with. Not a good fit.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember a while back you posted that whole cycle of
Yeah.
how when African American women when we enter in the workplace and people are inspired, oh, we've got our
Honeymoon.
diversity. Then the moment we start questioning the status quo,
Yes.
that's the beginning of our demise.
Exactly.
Um, and so that's been the story of my life. And so what I realized, Shell, and let me know when I'm talking too much, is that
No, you're good.
I need to get into a position where I can create the diversity that we
Yes.
need in healthcare. And I'm very proud of my hospital, because I have been very intentional. It is
Mhm.
very diverse, very, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm talking You got, because when you walk in, when you talk about healthcare, you should walk into a hospital, and the hospital leadership team should represent the community that you're serving.
Mm.
Patients should be able to come into a hospital and look on a wall or look on a website, and whether it's Filipino, Hispanic, African American, Nigerian, and I have a very colorful, and it's not just I was it, and they happen to be really good at what they do.
Yeah. Well, that's how
They
you got to choose them.
You have to choose them.
You
They
can't be
and
on
they
my
and
team unless you are good.
exactly. And so what it's done is it forces people who just happen to be at the right place at the right time and had the right look, they got to rise up.
Yeah.
They have to perform.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
I want to close with this thought. You've made it to the C-suite. And I've noticed whether it's in healthcare, any kind of corporate workplace,
Mhm.
there is this gushing hole in the leadership pipeline in the middle of it where
Mhm.
many women of color, especially Black women, get stuck. Been in
Mhm.
the same role or they've gone to different roles, same level for
Yes.
years and got to the point where many are satisfied or they've defaulted and said, I'm making a good check, I'm making good money, I can buy
Mhm.
my Fendi bag, I can travel, I see cool
Mhm.
people, it's all good. And whatever dream they had back when they were 22, and it's so funny that you would say that because I made a list at 22 that I got back to after I left
Mhm.
AT&T. And it's amazing what happens when you get back to that dream. But
Yes.
we don't get back to the dream because we give up. We get really disappointed. And as the census also says, in Catalyst, we end up going to start our own jobs. We start our own companies. We have
Mhm.
opted out of the workplace. But I, as an executive coach, am helping and supporting women who want to stay in corporate to
Mhm.
get to your level. What does it take?
What does it take? Honestly, Shell, what I see is sometimes you got to be able to go.
Yeah,
And it's sad. I mean, you've seen. I mean, I was in Texas and I packed up and moved to Colorado,
yeah,
and then I moved to Hawaii, and then and that's a sad reality
yeah,
that you face, is that because you reach a glass ceiling, and it's not that you have to, but you've got to be flexible and be a little bit more geographically flexible. And too often we want to stay put and just hope for the best.
yeah, yeah,
We just want to hope for the best. And I just want to tell you, I'm not going to name her, but I have a friend and a colleague right now who is in a very high level nursing leadership position. Comp is great, golden handcuffs.
yeah.
I've
That's what
helped
I
her
call them.
to interview for a chief nurse position. She has been made an offer, and but the money that they're offering is not what she's making right now. And
Wow.
so we had a conversation, and I said, go back, negotiate something that's midway, negotiate a sign on. And I said, but the only way that you are going to be able to break into the C suite is that you may have to take a couple of steps back in order to be able to move 10 steps forward.
Mm.
And it's unfortunate, but it's just the reality of it. And what it is that they've been throwing money at her, but not giving
Yeah,
her the advancement,
yeah. That's
because that's what we
exactly
like
how it
is money,
happened.
right?
And
So
here's the thing.
unfortunately, mhm.
I'm sorry. I get so
No,
excited
go
about this
ahead.
conversation.
Mhm.
We don't ask the right questions
Mhm.
before we get stuck. We need to be asking, where am I in the succession plan?
Yep.
We don't ask those questions. And we would be able to make better decisions faster about our careers if we just, you know, unwrapped it right away
Mhm.
instead of getting into the position where, everybody's comfortable. It's all good. I'm getting my X% raise and my stocks and all of this stuff. But I'm just
Mhm.
hanging out right here.
Mhm.
And they're
Yeah, you
happy
getting
with that.
paid, and yeah, but and that's exactly what it is. But Shell, the reason why you've seen me move is because I have asked those questions. And the
Yeah.
moment that I see the glass ceiling, I pack up all my experience and my credentials and I move.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, I'm here and I don't want to do that anymore, but I've been very fortunate to become a part of a succession plan and be able to get promoted while staying put.
Yes.
Um, yeah, but that's what my I think my message would be for our sisters who are there. I see them in healthcare; they're stacked. They're
Yeah.
some of them got more education. They got 3 master's degrees,
Of
a
course
doctorate
they
of
do.
dentist certification, but they're sitting at mid-management level positions,
Yeah.
middle management.
Yeah.
And and I'm just scratching my head, and I think it's just because people want to stay put
They do.
and hope for the best. And you cannot do that. You have
Yeah.
to be the CEO of you,
You.
and you have
Thank
to
you.
know your value. And
Yes.
sometimes that is taking, and I had to tell my friend, I said, okay, you're going to take a little bit of step here, but understand that now you're going to have the CNO on your resume. And every Tom, Dick, and Harry is going to be coming after you for now. So get
Yes.
in this role and, you know, sit in it for a year or two. You need a couple of years. And I said, and now you'll always be able to get a CNO position because you have the
Yes.
experience.
Yes.
But she'd been with the same organization for 20 years.
Oh,
And
that's
unfortunately, she took my advice. And
good.
they're renegotiating her salary.
Good.
And she said that she's going to take it no matter what it is.
Good.
She said she's going to go ahead and take it because that's the only way you're going to be able to break away from those golden handcuffs.
Well, and negotiate the heck out of it. Because if they can't
Yes,
give you the cash value, you need to get all the perks. Some that they didn't
exactly,
even think of.
exactly. Exactly. So that's that's what I do. And I'm mentoring some up and coming African American nurse leaders.
Good.
And really trying to help them because they're highly stacked and they're stuck.
Yeah.
And part of my conversations is that you may have to move. You don't have no kids. There's no family here. Why are
Yeah.
you here?
Get on a plane. Get in the
Get
car.
on a plane and go.
Keep going. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? That does my heart well because you just named off some of those leadership principles that I try to instill in my clients. And,
Thank
I'm writing
you.
a book. Y'all, she's going to be in the book. So we want to hear more from Kecia. Kecia, girl, you're my heart. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
I love you.
Well,
Okay.
well, thank you. I love you too, and thank you for what you're doing, Shell. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it, and you're doing good work. Love your hair. Just wanted to call
This
that
is
out.
pandemic
Awesome.
hair, girl. I tell people all the time. I actually braided my hair for the first time. It's not even braids, it's twist.
It's twist. I know that. I watched it, and so I was like, okay, go on then. But
Thank
anyway,
you. I'm still
I
trying to
didn't say
follow the
that.
rules and stay alive, and I want my family to stay alive too. So I will sit
Mine
here for
too.
hours on hours and twist my
Me
hair.
too. I hear you.
Where can everybody find you on social media if they want to follow you?
Well, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn. I don't know how to do Snapchat. I've tried. I tried TikTok,
I'm not on
Shell. I'm so
Snapchat,
confused.
chat, not even
I am,
trying.
yeah, but TikTok is so confusing. I just get on there and watch people dance. Uh, so, but pretty much I'm very active on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. I keep it very professional. That I maybe post there about once every 3 months.
Yeah.
But I am active on there and reading links and things like that though. But those are the three
Well,
places.
Instagram is where I follow you primarily. Will you give us your handle?
Yeah, it's Doc Kelly, Fit Mom of Two.
Yes. Is there a
Yep,
dot
that's
in
it.
there somewhere?
I think there is. Doc Kelly. Let me see here. I have to look on my
Okay.
little thing here. I don't even, yeah, let me look on my profile here. Yeah, Doc is DOC Doc Kelly Fit Mom of Two. It's the number two.
There you
So
go.
that's it.
And by the way, one of her young men is a horn frog.
He's
Yay.
a horn frog. I know my other baby, he's gonna be an Aztec. That's
Okay.
what San
Did he
Diego
go to
State is.
SMU? Why did I think he went to SMU?
Well, Henry's at TCU, but Seth is going to go to San Diego State
Okay.
University. So he's going to stay here in California.
Okay.
Yeah, he
Well,
got into
good. Go for mom
TCU,
and
but
dad.
he don't want to go.
I don't blame him.
All righty.
Love you. Thank you so
Love you
much.
too. All
All
right.
right.
Thanks, Shell.
Bye
Bye.
bye.